Hello.
Hi, Eddy. It's amazing to see you, and even more wonderful to see you with so many beautiful rainbow colors around you, as always.
Of course, the rainbow signifies so much stuff for all of us. So it's great to have my rainbow feathers.
Lovely. Well, I am Kennedy Carrillo, Caribbean researcher for Outright Action International, with another very interesting interview in the Outright TV series that we have been spending quite an amount of time focusing on the realities of our global LGBTQI community. And so today I have the awesome pleasure to interview not only a dear friend, but also a former student.
Yes, 20 years. 20 years it's been.
Wow, and that's amazing that you're actually keeping count. That means that you're the young one.
Yes, yes. It's been a while. And it's been a while since the age of 16. That was the first time you've met me. When I walked into your room, into your counseling room at St. John's Junior College, from a small little town up north in the country of Belize called Corozal.
And then let's go back to that day. Do you do you remember how and why you walked through those doors?
Um, Basically, I was looking for something that I did not know yet what it was. People have been giving me a description of who I was from since I was the age of 8, coming from a very small town. And not only from my peers, but from my cousins. I have a lot of cousins, from classmates, from teachers, sometimes from home. And I heard all these words, but I did not have a definition for myself. And when I went to St. John's Junior College and I saw all of the services that were provided for us, it was excited for me to see that there was a counseling room, which they said it was for mostly to go to college. And that's what the premise that I went into that room for, to try to see how I could escape. So escape was my go-to when I walked into that room that day.
Okay. And how did you leave that room?
I left that room more feeling more secure than I have ever felt before for my 16 years of life. Because for the whole entire time and upbringing in that small town, I always felt judged. I was always looking over my shoulder to see when will be the next drop for me to either be kicked out of my community, um, if I felt that at home I wasn't going to be safe enough. And at one point, my parents was going to try to send me away. So at that moment, I was like, okay, I think that in this country, I have found someone and individuals that will make me feel like I am represented, that I'm seen, and that I can be safe. That's how I left that office that day.
Yes. Because I remember very clearly that day, Eddy, because you were Eddy. You walked in very flamboyant, something that, you know, 20 years ago was not very common because people were in Belize were so scared of showing who they are.
Yeah.
But I think, as you always said, that you couldn't hide who you were. That was Eddy, and Eddy just walked through those doors, you know, and you called my attention from that moment. And I remember sitting there and speaking to a very shy, scared young man. And I will never forget, you know, how much that impacted me and how much that made me realize that there were so many other young persons like yourself at the college struggling with their own sexuality, and maybe not even with the sexuality, but actually the stigma and discrimination that revolved around all of this. So definitely, I will never forget that day that you walked through that door. But now, Eddy, Eddy's in the Big Apple. Tell me who is Eddy Middleton?
um, Today, and sometimes it usually takes um, individuals from my past, like yourself, for me to be reminded of where I came from. Not that I ever forget, but in order for me to have moved forward and to have accomplished some of the things that I did, I had to lock it away and put it in the back of my mind. Because if I did not allow myself to be free of all of the baggage that I flew over here with, I will have not be sitting here today. I've seen many brothers and sisters, kids that I went to at fashion school who made life just let them diminish. They diminished their light. They got connected to a title. They got connected or they fell for their demons. And one thing that I always loved about having and selecting good people around me was that I had a good group of friends that I left Belize City with that always checked and balanced me. And that was one thing that allowed me to always evaluate where I was going. Because this city can throw you off guard. And especially in the career that I chose to go into, they feed you the Kool-Aid. And if you drink it, you may not come back. So today I think I am a much better person because I forced myself to grow into a person that's not one-dimensional. Whenever I felt that I was going down the path that was not correct for me, not for anyone else, I made sure that I found and seek mentorship and help and ask questions, and always made sure that the finger that I was pointing, that I was being aware that the three that was pointing at me was always something that was fair.
Okay.
So I think now I am not fully yet, because I'm still in the States, in your 30s, you're still considered young. But I think I am a fully developed 36-year-old at this moment.
Okay, Eddy, and I know that you have had a major success at 36 in your career. Why don't you tell us a bit about your career?
Well, my career was something that it's a fairy tale, because all of my classmates and all of the people that I know knew from the day I was in elementary school that I was designing and drawing clothing and saying that I want to be a fashion designer. Many did not believe me. Many thought that I was crazy, and I had a lot of detractors. The turning point for me was when I came to Belize City, and I said I wanted to be a fashion designer in one of my in one of my classes, and my peers did not look at me weird. No one said, "Oh, you want to be a seamstress? Oh, that's what you want to do?" Everyone looked at me like, "Oh, okay, that's good." And following up with that was when you made me meet other peers of mine. And I don't remember who told me this. And they said, don't say, I want to be a fashion designer. Say when you become a fashion designer. And that stuck with me forever. Forever. That team ran through my head from the minute I entered the United States to come and study for fashion design. When I was in fashion school, it was a dream. I thought that, who am I? A little boy from Belize. I mean, the first day kids stood up and laughed at me when I said I'm from Corozal, Belize. They were like, do you know how to design fall winter? And I guess I was, well, I don't guess, I know I was very successful in fashion school because I was able to get hired immediately after I graduated fashion school. And out of that graduating class, I was one of probably 5 individuals who made it in high-end fashion. And the reason I say high-end fashion, because there's many fashion designers out here, people who design bras for Victoria's Secret, people who design socks for Nike, people who do denim. There's all types of fashion designer. The fashion designers that we will say that is worthy, that everyone wants to be a part of, are the ones who go to fashion shows, the one who design the shows that walk around the runway. I never thought in my wildest dream that I would have been one of those fashion designers. And I had worked in companies like Tommy Hilfiger that I used to wear as a child. I worked for companies like Luca Luca, where we made high-end women's wear. And then I worked at Billy Reed. I had friends that were at Michael Kors, friends that were at Kate Spade. These were designer brands that I have never thought I would be walking down their halls in my wildest dreams. But the biggest dream was when I used to go to Vogue nearly on a daily basis. When my bosses were running for the Council of Fashion Designers of America, I was there going with interns, dropping off clothing, and to see these hollow halls, something that was in my dream, it was unimaginable. I could not, I had to pinch myself many days that this was occurring. And worse, because I've never met anyone from Belize that was working in New York fashion per se. Everyone I knew were either in LA or in Miami, or they were not Belizean born. So I felt like the only one out there on the ledge. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot, I will say. I can't explain it. I cannot go into details of all of everything that I saw, from meeting celebrities, from working backstage, from meeting models that I saw in Vogue, from meeting actual editors that I used to read about in Vogue. I was questioning. Some days I used to walk out of parties and I used to be like, me? Why me? I remember asking myself that one time when I went to an after party for Baby Fat at the Plaza Hotel. And only select few people had a golden ticket. And in your invitation, you had to have a golden ticket. And I got a golden ticket because I had friends that were working at Baby Fat. And they made sure that I got that golden ticket. And I was there partying at Baby Fat after party with Kimora and Jaiman and all these fashion people right next to me. Ja Rule, J Lo was over there in VIP. And it was just surreal. And although I've accomplished more than that, in that moment, it was the best thing ever because it was my first breakthrough from where I was coming from my folder pages sketching, now to have this coming to reality. Like, not everyone gets to actually live in their dream. So that's, that's the highlight highlight of my career.
Well, definitely, we all have this impression that the fashion world is so much glamour, and everything is so amazing. But I really want to look at it from another angle. The young, Black, gay men from a very small country, some might even say an underdeveloped country, like Belize. What has your experience climbing up the ladder in the fashion world been like?
Ooh. Well, I like to tell everyone that coming to this country, I had to quickly learn how to be African American in order for me to survive anything. Because you come from a country where your culture is number one, to move to a culture where your culture is not your culture, your race. Because my culture as a Black person is number one in America, but my race is number 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you quickly have to learn that in order for you to survive coming from another country, especially people from the from Africa and people from the Caribbean, we always get a tough time because we come here with such pride. And it's pride because we never have to face what our African American brothers and sisters face in this country. We have seen Black leaders in our country. We have seen people who are pillars in this country. If Belize had a Vogue, I knew it was going to be someone of color at the helm of it. So it wasn't strange for me to see people of color in positions of leadership. Our prime minister was someone of color. So coming to America, I had to empathize with my brothers and sisters, first off. And going into fashion, I had to empathize even more because you are seen as something exotic and you're wanted more when you're not from America. And many times the little accent that I have, people will be like, oh, where are you from? No one didn't care before I speak. But when I speak, they're like, oh, where are you from? And sometimes when you get into fashion, you learn a little twang. And I had a little twang at one point that someone will ask me, are you British? But I never said that I was from where I wasn't. I always made sure that people knew that I was from Corozal, Belize, because I was proud of where I came from. Even if they weren't proud of me, I was proud of where I came from. Even on my social media handle, I used a village in my hometown as my Instagram handle. And everyone asked, I said, because it was always a conversation starter. And because I wanted to keep myself grounded and rooted to where I come from. Because if I did not have that, I think I will have crashed and burned. Fashion builds fantasy. We sell, we build, we create fantasy. And a lot of people run off into the abyss in those fantasies. And I kept a friend that I met in Belize City at 16 as one of my closest friends. I even consider him a brother today. And whenever I needed to decompress, or I needed someone to say, hey, what's wrong with you? What the F is wrong with you? I'm sorry, I went into, what is wrong with you? I knew that calling him, inviting him to New York will snap me right back. Because the industry is crazy, and it's even more crazy for people of color because you have to be 200%. I had to do everything perfect. I had to have the perfect clothes, the perfect shoes, the perfect hair, eat the perfect food, smell the perfect way, have the perfect bag, because you're scrutinized. And especially coming from another country like Belize, where they didn't understand where my taste level came from. Oh, you could design that? Oh, you designed that collection? How did you know about baby lamb? Questions like that I had to face and encounter. Questions asking me, how do you feel to be one of the 1% of Black people to get into high-end fashion? So I could have made that break me. Many days I could have gone outside and cry. Many times I could have fly back home, which I wanted to many, many times. But something that people might think was sad was also my advantage. The reason why I don't think I ever broken down was because I didn't feel like I had an option to come home. Okay. Sorry, mother. I don't. If my mother gets to see this interview, I don't want her to feel bad about it, but that's the truth. I didn't feel like I had an option to come home. If I come home, what will I have done? And I remember I had a very interesting argument with my mother once. And I was like, come home and do what? You gonna take care of me? Am I gonna come home and teach? And I felt so horrible because in that moment, I was angry and I didn't want to disparage her because of teaching. She took it that way, but I wanted her to know that teaching was not for me. I'm out here trying to change the narrative. I am trying to follow what is greater for me. And you telling me coming home as a solution is not helping me. And I just, I hurt my mother in that moment, which no child intentionally want to hurt their parents, just as no parent want to intentionally hurt their child. But in that moment, communication was not key, and we weren't communicating well, and so we ended up hurting each other. So the industry was very hard. I will not sugarcoat it. Fashion is very hard, and as a immigrant, as a person of color, it is even more so harder, um, because you walk this world differently. Like everyone always asks me why, and I said a gay white man in America, the only thing he needs to fight for is being gay. And even so, that doesn't matter. If most white gay males that I encountered in the fashion industry had an inheritance from grandma, and when you have money, money is money changed the narrative for everything. So a lot of my peers moved through the industry much different than I did. And I had to fight tooth and nails. I had to stay at my job sometimes at 2 in the morning to prove myself so I could have gotten to the next step. Um, which was that good as well, because after a while you get burned out, but it's a different reality for people of color in the fashion industry. It is.
Eddie, I want to explore a little bit deeper with you because I know that in Belize, especially when I met you, you were either homosexual or heterosexual. There was nothing else to the continuum, just homosexual or heterosexual. Today, as I look at you now, 36 years of age, how do you identify?
Like I tell everyone, I identify myself as a Black man. And it's not because I do not want any labels, or labels is not something that I'm looking for. I identify myself as a Black man because I walk through this world as that first. No one asks if I am from royalty when they see me on the street. No one asks if I may be trans when I'm walking on the street. No one asks if maybe I was a woman that turned into a man before, and I'm just making it a simple term because sometimes when we go into all of the terms of FTM and trans, sometimes some people don't understand that, especially people from other countries. So I just say I am a Black man because that defines me across the board. When I walk into a room, when I go to a party, when I'm on the street, when I'm in the supermarket, no matter if my bag says Burberry or if my jacket says Burberry, I am a Black man. And that's why today I am a Black man.
And that's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Everything else that falls after that will have the moniker Black this, Black trans man, Black gay man, Black cis man. Whatever I choose, Black will never be removed. So
it'll always be the first word.
Yes.
Eddie, as a Black man in the US, we know there's a lot that has been happening. Most recently, as once again, racism has shown its ugly face. What has been your experience these past months with what has been happening?
Fortunately, for all of the uprisings that have been happening, I have been safe and secured. I was able to maintain my job. I was able to continue to pay my rent and quarantine by myself in my apartment. I was able to enjoy a lot of luxuries that a lot of other people or other Black people have not. But that never negates me from championing the rights of others. I've never turned or my back around from not championing for illegal immigrants. I didn't come here illegally, but I am an immigrant. And if I do not champion for people who are like me, then that's a problem. And when the Black Lives Matter movement started after that horrible weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and I could remember it so vividly that we had Amy Cooper in Central Park weaponizing her whiteness, and that same day, George Floyd being killed. That morning, when I saw what Amy Cooper did, I was sick, literally sick. I was nauseated and I was crying in my bed. And I called my friend. I was like, why is this different? Why do I feel different? And I felt different because I have worked and built a career around many Amy's. And I've had a seat many times at the table where I was the only one. And in that moment, I had to think about what happened in that boardroom. I assessed every step that I had made in my life. So maybe I didn't become senior designer because I was Black. Or maybe I didn't get that job because I was Black. Or maybe that's why my friend didn't take me to New Jersey because her grandpa probably was racist. Because I would have never thought that an Amy Cooper would have existed in Central Park, New York. So it changed my entire outlook of how I present and how I walk in this America. Because New York, that I thought was a sanctuary, doesn't feel like a sanctuary for me anymore. And not because I am blessed to have kept my job and kept housing, doesn't mean I will turn my back on championing for the rights of others because they don't have a voice. I am afforded the right to sit in a room where I'm the only one, and I will make sure that my voice is heard because sometimes education is key.
Wow, that's very, very powerful, Eddy. And I'm really so grateful for you to have shared that because I think it's a discourse that needs to continue. We need to keep speaking out, and we need to keep hearing and learning from this experience so that something like this, it needs to stop. Definitely, it needs to stop. It cannot continue. And so thank you for sharing that. But now I wanted to ask you as we start to wrap up, I want you to imagine that you were in my seat 20 years ago, that you were the counselor, and that a young 16-year-old, shy, scared young man from Corozal walked through those doors. What would you tell this young man?
Oof. Wow. I always, and everyone always asks me, and friends of mine always ask me, what would you have told yourself, your younger self, now at your age? It's so hard. I'm not a psychic. No. It's not about psychic. I'm just being stupid. I will tell that young person that keep doing what you're doing. Because at that moment, that young man wasn't shy. That young man was broken. That young man was broken by people always telling him, no, you cannot, you should not. So I will tell that young man, keep doing what you're doing because it wasn't shyness. It was being broken from years and years and years of people defining what you were, people defining where you were going to go, and people trying to tell you who you were going to be.
Definitely. Wow.
Yeah.
And this has been amazing catching up with you. I mean, I know I saw you just last year. I was fortunate to have seen you, and I was hoping to see you again this year.
Yeah.
COVID decided to change so many of our plans that we had for 2020.
Yeah.
How has COVID affected you, your life?
Well, like COVID has affected me in a way that has shown me what America truly is. Growing up as a child, everyone wanted to come to America. We saw America as the land of freedom and all of the above. And COVID has opened Pandora box because I feel like if those stuff didn't happen to George Floyd and the Breonna Taylors while we were all going to work, people were going to go to work and move on to their regular day. But because everyone was at home, already antsy, looking at your Black brothers and sisters dying at larger rates than any other culture in the country, you start to see where the where America truly lies, who America truly is. And so COVID has shown me that. COVID has shown me that they don't really care about you. So you need to start to find a way to carve out your own little community. And that's why a lot of it's good. It's showing us that we're fighting for what we need. I'm tired of hearing people saying that it's been 50 years, it's been 400 years. And it's something that I cannot shy away from. I think it's reignited my activism. And as you know, I've always been a little activist at heart. And so I think COVID has changed me for the better. Um, Before it was all about being individual and about me, and now I'm trying to be collective and be with my people and trying to educate and let people know that there is a need to disband the systemic racism that exists in this country.
Great. Eddie, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. But more than that, I want to thank you for impacting my life 20 years ago and really contributed to the person that I am today, the person that can proudly wear rainbow colors and join you in wearing all of these amazing colors, because you taught me that there was more to life than just hiding behind, you know, a title, a counselor, or trying to pretend to be a heterosexual in a very discriminating world. But you showed me that it was okay. So more than you think, you helped me. And for that, I want to thank you. And I want to tell you that I don't only see you as a friend, but I see you as family. And so I want to play this song for you, a little bit of it. It was Big Root and playing before the time.
We are family.
Yes. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it. You never meet the Tumpa Tumpa. Thank you so much, Marta. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And we will get through this. And next year, hopefully, we'll meet each other again in New York.
Look forward to it.
Yes. Bye.